A business is an entity or is a thing. Humans created it, and its job is to just provide value to society, right? And the thing with businesses is that most people, whenever you go to a university, you want to study entrepreneurship, business, whatever, they're going to tell you a business has to have something unique. If you're not unique, then you can't really start a business because whatever you want to create has already been created. So a micro business just takes the concept of a business which has a lot of employees, it has a lot of departments, big budgets and all of that. And to think of it, okay, how can I scale this down? You'll miss on a huge audience, like on a huge portion of audience, but you also need to realize that not all attention is equal. Like I've had relative good success on X, on Twitter. But the people who buy from me the most, the people who interact with me the most, who email me like almost every single week, they don't really care about that I'm going viral or I'm finding a lot of success. Usually they found me from posts that don't do so well, but were expressing my authentic self. So not all attention is equal. You can have a big audience and guess what?
Hussain, what is a micro personal brand and how can I build one myself?
Micro personal brand. I like to think of it more as a micro business.
Okay.
Because when you think about that, because think of what is a business, right? A business is an entity or is a thing. Humans created it, and its job is to just provide value to society, right? And the thing with businesses is that most people, whenever you go to a university, you want to study entrepreneurship, business, whatever, they're going to tell you, oh, a business has to have something unique. If you're not unique, then you can't really start a business because whatever you want to create has already been created. And so a micro business just takes the concept of a business which has a lot of employees, it has a lot of departments, big budgets and all of that. And to think of it, okay, how can I scale this down? It's more of a meta approach when you think about it. So the way I want you to think about this is, let's say we have a human body. The human body is made of what? Organs, systems, nerves, all of these things that are inside a human, that is human anatomy or whatever you want to call it. Every organ is made of certain cell, like of amount of cells. These cells are made of atoms. Like you keep going, you keep breaking things down until you have the atom basically at the end. And so when you think about this, when you apply the same concept to a business, it will all come back to the idea of having a founder or like a person that is creating something. So you don't need a huge marketing team. You don't need a huge department. You don't need an office. You don't need anything. What you need is just the essentials, which is an idea that you believe in, a problem that you can solve, not just any problem, but a problem that society wants and is willing to pay for it. A problem that society does not know how to solve by themselves, because if they know how to solve it, then there's really no need for it, right? And then someone who is willing to solve that problem or has the skill sets to solve that problem, and then just a way of you attracting people or telling people, hey, I have the solution to your problem, which you will use in exchange for money. And so when you think about that, okay, when you have that as a micro business, which is, it just takes one person to start a business. All you need is an idea, a problem, and a solution. The problem or the overlap that comes with, or like a unique spin or a unique perspective that you can add is every business has to have something unique. And so when you apply that to a person, well, guess what? Every person is unique by themselves. You have your own stories. Nobody in this world has lived the same exact life that you have in the same exact order, in the same exact sequence, and the same exact ideas, beliefs, concepts. So that combination leads to a new or a unique person who can solve it. And so in that way, you solve that problem of being a unique business, having something unique, which is it's yourself. And so you can create a business entirely by expressing your authentic self and solving a problem that people want. I know it went kind of philosophical with that answer, but that is generally how I see a profitable micro business.
Yeah, that's actually definitely what I wanted. I wanted to go into the meaty stuff, but I want to start at the beginning, so scaling things down. How exactly can I take, let's say, a marketer or a salesperson and so on and compress them into one founder?
Okay, this is a nice thing, a nice question, because when you think of a marketer, so marketing, sales, persuasion, um, all of them rely on the same thing, which is human psychology, human behavior. And so when you think like marketing and sales is just applied psychology, applied human behavior. When you understand that, because I know a lot of people, they get all wrapped up in this copywriting principles, like, oh, you need to use frameworks, or you need to use that, you need to have like a proof big idea problem in your headline or something. But when you think about it, you don't really speak in that way with your friends. Like, you don't tell people, oh, if you want to lose 35 pounds of muscle and add in whatever without taking any like pills or injections or steroids, like this is the way you go, or like you'll burn in hell or something. It's like you don't speak to that to a normal human being. You just tell people like, hey, I used to struggle with fat loss, or like I've helped X, Y, and Z people with fat loss. They came to me because they hated to count calories and to go on restrictive diets. So I just helped them lose weight while not going on restrictive diets or whatever. And then guess what? People start buying from you because you're not over there trying to oversell. Instead, you're just speaking to them like a friend, and people resonate with that a lot more. So when you try to compress everything down, it will always come back to human behavior and human psychology. If you understand what moves people and where people want to be, like where people are now, where do they want to be, the rest is simple, because all you need to do is figure out the path in the middle. And then your marketing and your sales is always going to be talking about where they are now, what have they tried, and where do they want to be, and why is that. And that's all you need to talk about. And that's it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's literally a concept we learn from so many people around the world, and it's always the same. It's always having a problem, having a current state of someone and helping them achieve the desired state. But to the language thing you said, one of my old school friends, he's now into online business, etc. But he had one of these quotes he always says, which is people like to go shopping, but never want to be sold at. And this reminds me a lot of that, because whenever I'm like I would say I'm not scrolling that much. I'm now slowly shifting towards YouTube, but especially in shorts, you have this whole dopamine explosion, I would say, of how people talk to the listener or the watcher. But your approach is more, I wouldn't say calm, but more human in many ways. It's like having a conversation with your ideal client. What would you say makes this approach more successful in your opinion? You talked about human psychology, but what are the other parts that make this, I would say, calmer approach better?
So the easy way out, like the simpler answer, is just that people don't really see that type of content over there, right? Another answer would be is the fact that your readers or the person you're talking to hasn't, like, nobody else has talked to him or made him feel seen, heard, and understood in their content. So, like, there is a reason why these mental health pages do really well. It's because, hey, someone who's feeling down, who's gonna see a tweet or a post that tells people like, oh, never judge someone when they're down, or like everyone goes through down or like bad moods or has bad days, they're gonna feel really good because you just spoke to them in their current state. And when you find or speak to your readers in their current state, they just feel there's something in their brain that flicks and says, this guy understands me. He knows what I want. And you just need to have like 1 or 3 experiences with that same reader, have that moment, and then he's hooked on to your brand forever, and they'll consume every single piece of content that you write. So another way I like to think about like this approach of like why this calmer approach to content really works is because a lot of people hide or fake themselves online. Like I can't tell you how many people that I've met on X or on Twitter or online that seem super hardcore in their profiles and whatnot. But like when I speak to them, they're nothing like that. They're nothing like how they post online. And I'm like, well, that's weird because I thought I was meeting that guy, not you, you know? So it's just like super weird when you see, and people can tell when you're being fake, but when you're being calm and you're expressing your authentic self, like you're not really trying to hide it. Sure, you'll miss on a huge audience, like on a huge portion of audience, but you also need to realize that not all attention is equal. Like I've had relative good success on X, on Twitter, but the people who buy from me the most, the people who interact with me the most, who email me like almost every single week, they don't really care about that I'm going viral or I'm finding a lot of success. Usually they found me from posts that don't do so well, but were expressing my authentic self. So not all attention is equal. You can have a big audience, and guess what? You will still struggle to monetize because the people who you've built don't really care about who you are. Let's say a mistake I made is when I started growing is mental health last year. Actually, it was like almost October and November. So it's been almost 12 months since I started going viral. At that time, mental health topics or threads, whatever you wrote on X, anything around mental health, it was going to do really well. And I started writing about it. And then guess what? My audience started blowing up. I was gaining like 2, 3, 4, 5,000 followers every single week. And then I was still struggling to monetize because I've built the wrong audience. And now I'm stuck. I have an audience that's all into mental health, but what I wanted to sell was writing. So now I was like, oh, I don't know what to do, you know? Like there's no approach to it. So I just had to take the punch in the face, like they say, and realize that, okay, not all attention is equal, and that showing your authentic self, even though it might be slower, but the people that you attract are going to be a lot more like you and they share the same beliefs as you. And that's how you find better success. So it's not always about the likes, about the followers, about the views. It's more about like what you can do with that.
Yeah, definitely. And especially what you said right now, that I wouldn't say a smaller, but the people you attract is more important than the numbers. And I learned this the wrong way. I used to always like engage to see more people engage on the my content. But at the end of the day, this went like this for 12 months. And after 12 months, I truly realized, okay, where am I going with all of this? And it was basically into a void. And this would be my question. So how can I truly know if I'm running towards a void or if I'm running towards, I wouldn't say fortune, but let's say success?
I always like to do this. I ask myself, is this something that I'm proud of posting? So are you proud of what you're trying to build? Is this something that you often think about? So let's say you're a podcaster, you like conversations. So I'm gonna create a hypothetical situation. Let's say you are really into talking to people and human relationships. Now you can talk about business. It's not like it's forbidden for you to talk about business. It's just like, do you want that to be a core part of your brand? Is that something that is always on your mind, like starting a business? Because you can be into dating and you can still talk about business. It's nothing wrong with it. It's just you need to find a reason why are you interested in that topic. So you're in the dating space and the human relationship space, and you're interested in business. You need to find a link. So when you write about business, you need to always find a way to bring it back into your main thing, which is relationships. And that way you can say, oh, starting a business increases your status, which based on science, actually your mental health really depends, and the quality of your relationships depends on the status that you have within your society. And so that's why you need to chase material success. And then You can create something around business if you want, but you can also be the dating guy, the relationships guy who's gonna help people get success or like get status by starting a business or doing something that gives them high status. Another thing you need to, and this is something that I still need to remind myself, is to know if you're chasing the wrong thing, like shiny object syndrome, or you're on the right path, is to ask yourself, why are you posting about this? Like, do you actually believe in this idea that you want to post about? Because I'm not gonna lie, I sometimes go on X. I see a guy who has 500 followers and he has like every single post gets like 500 likes, and I'm like, I would like that. So I look at I look at his content, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't really want to post about that. Like, it's not something that really resonates with me. Sure, it gets a lot of engagement, but I know the people who chase engagement don't really make the most amount of money, and it's something that you need to experiment with. You can't really know if you're on the right track or you're chasing the void unless you've experienced it yourself, right? So I thought I always wanted to be like in the self-improvement space and the fitness space. Actually, even my account, as soon as I started posting on it, it was always around health and fitness, right? I thought I was gonna be like fitness guy and teach people how to get fit. But then I started posting about it and I was like, oh my God, like I really don't want this, you know? And then I had to pivot. I pivoted like a million times, by the way. Like my brand pivoted a million times. It's only after like sixth or the seventh time, and at that point it took me like 8 months until I fell in love with writing and I started talking about writing. And the more I talked about it, that's slowly how I figured out like what I want to do and found something that truly resonates with me. And if you're doing something that resonates with you, then you don't really have to worry about, hey, am I on the right track or not? Sure, you can hire mentors, but at the end of the day, your mentor will tell you the same thing, which is, hey, is what you're building, like, are you proud of it or are you not? Is this something that makes you excited when you wake up every single day to work on this? If the answer is no, then you need to look back and see what you've done wrong, because you're obviously going into a hole, digging yourself into a hole, which you don't really want.
Yeah, I noticed a lot of that at the beginning. So as you spoke, I kind of thought about, okay, people who chase engagement and likes. I would say this isn't truly the fulfilling thing most of us want. We truly want the thing after it, which would be, I would say, a more fulfilling life. And since we tie this fulfilling life with achievement, with growth, then we have like two, or split, I would say. At one side, we have this whole business stuff and monetizing your mindset in some way. On the other hand, you have engagement, but you see the numbers grow. But at the end, yes, it will probably be a void. And thinking about it, we as humans, we love to see things grow. And at the end of the day, you have to truly know what you're growing there. Or at one point, you may be at a point of saying, okay, this is too big for me to truly move or break down or try again. So I think that it's a journey that most of us have to go through, to ask the right questions, to ask the whys, especially because for a long time, I totally neglected the why. For 1 year, I neglected the why. I didn't know why I was doing all of this until it came down to, okay, I have to provide value that is tied to me as a person. Then I thought about phone addiction. Now I'm about to launch my first real thing around phone addiction to truly help a lot of people. But in this process, it kind of got into now podcasting. So a lot is happening. And I would say that there's no real clarity except going through it. So definitely.
This is something I see a lot of people also ask, like, oh, what advice do you have? Like, even today, before getting on this podcast, I got a DM from someone asking me, hey, I'm new to writing online. I've been learning a bit. What advice do you have for me? And legit, after we finish this podcast, I'll just tell him, post whatever you want, try everything that you want, see what you like, see what you don't like, do more of what you like. It's at the end of the day, it always comes down to this.
Hmm.
Like, is this like, you won't know what you want unless you have tried it, and then you can say, yeah, this is a bad apple, this is a good apple. Like, then you're gonna know what you want, really. But trying to figure everything out before even starting is the reason why most people never even start. It's because they're too scared, or they're trying to be so perfect about everything, then they just never start, and then they live a life of regret, which is kind of a shame, to be honest.
And what would you say would be a reason why people don't start? Because for me, it was for a long time just being scared to show myself online.
Hmm.
This was the first, I would say, 4 years. So I was 16
Yeah.
until I got, I would say, 19. I was scared
Hmm.
to even show my face online. Then it was a year of like trying stuff out, posting random stuff. And now it's only got into a more serious point where I also consider like platforms that are tied to my content. Right now, I'm moving more to YouTube because I know
Hmm.
that what I will post is better there than on X, because on X, most of the stuff just you post it, then it will be seen for like a week, and after that it's probably, I would say, dead.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, on YouTube you just have this, it's a search engine for
Hmm.
people who search on answers. And since what I am teaching is so globally, I would say, a phenomenon that no one is really talking about, I
Yeah.
saw the gap. Now I'm heading into it and I'm excited of the journey. Let's see how
Yeah.
it goes. But yeah, what would you say is or are things that make people stop from truly starting?
Yeah. Um, so the first thing is, it will seem like I'm trashing the education system, but it's something that you were punished as a kid. Whenever you tried something new, and for example, I remember this in my first year of uni. So I was quite good at calculus at high school. So when I went into my first year of uni doing engineering, I had to take the same calculus that I took in high school, because like the way that our education system was, my high school, last year in high school was basically the same kind of courses that I would take in my first year of uni. So when I went into uni, went into calculus, I was like, oh, this is the same calculus that I took in high school, so I won't study for this, like I know everything. There was like a question where we had to like, there was a concept where the way that you find the limits of a function was like by sandwiching. So let's say cosine when x goes to zero, or something. I forgot what the problem exactly was, but it was something like a wave when it goes into zero. Like there's so much frequency that you can't really have an answer.
Hmm.
But if you do a sandwich where you like see it, look at it from the top, look at it from the bottom, it kind of converges into zero, so the answer is zero. So why did I bring this up? Because I solved the same question. I just solved it in a different way, in a method that isn't in the method that my professor wanted, and he considered that answer was wrong. And I told him, but I got the same answer, right? He was like, yes. Okay. I told him, did I make a mistake in my steps? He was like, no. Then why did you deduct me? And he was like, oh, you didn't use the method that I taught you. I was like, well, it doesn't really matter now, does it? So, like, why are you punishing me? And so, and then I ended up not getting an A in that course because of that. So it's like in the education system, they usually try to systemize everything. Like they
Hmm.
want everyone to be a clone of each other, and that doing anything new gets punished. Because if you create something new, then everything has to adapt to it if you're always creating. So people go into education system and they lose that, and they get trained basically into not being creative, not trying new things. So they're gonna get a job and whatever. And also, like another thing was, I had this realization back at uni when I was driving every weekend, like to uni and back home. Um, I always remembered when I was a kid, all of my family, like my parents, the uncles, even my teachers, they would tell me, "Hey, and you can probably resonate with this," is that they tell you, go to school, get really good grades, get a good job so you can pay, so you can, yeah, so it's like get good grades so you go into a really good college and you can study something that's really wanted so you can get a job and then you can pay off whatever you want. And from the surface, it's not bad advice, you know, like that's what they did and they found success with it. But when you dig deeper into that and into their mindset, what it really teaches you is that you can't build the life that you want by yourself. You always need to rely on someone else. You need to rely on that job, on that money that you get from that job, to like finance the life that you want. Nobody told me like, oh, go to school to get good grades so you can get a good degree and you can have the skills so you can do what you want. So you can start your own business or do whatever you want. Nobody really tells you that because that's their mindset, you know? And people follow, like when you're a kid, you're gonna follow your parents because who am I to judge them? You know, like they're older, they're wiser. And if I judge them like, oh, you're the bad kid who is like arrogant, who thinks like he knows the entire world, it's just like, no. I just thought for a second, and why is that? Why is that your idea? Like when I mean why is that your ideal life, is like me as a child questioning my parents or the teachers, like, why do you think that is a good life, you know? And even let's say a job that doesn't really give you like a retirement fund, that doesn't really contribute. I don't know if there is in any countries, but let's just say that. Let's say you get a job, it's going to pay you a much higher salary. So instead of, let's say, 4,000 euros, they're going to pay you 8,000 euros. But the only catch is that nothing will be going into a retirement fund. You have to fund it yourself. Like there is no government support with that job. A lot of I can't tell you how many people that I know that wouldn't take the job because they're gonna say, oh, there's no retirement. It's not gonna go into my retirement at the end. And again, it's like the same mindset, which is, I want everything to be guaranteed. I don't want to take accountability. I am too scared to move because I was punished when I was a kid. And now they're just like too scared, and they have these ideas that they believe in, and they have all of this, basically, let's say, imaginations that they want to achieve in life that they can't really achieve because they're stuck in a job that they hate, and then that is the source of their misery and they don't even know it. And so it's like there's a lot of reasons why people don't really start. But yeah, it's just like social programming is probably the biggest one and the biggest reason.
Yeah, I totally agree. And seeing my childhood, so I know exactly in 12th grade we had a subject that was around human psychology, and then I once said, okay, but the education system, it is designed to produce employers instead of employees.
Yeah.
And ever since I said this, I continued saying this, and I was then labeled from a teacher as the employee-employer guy. So this was like one of my early moments of, I would say, breaking free from this scarcity mindset. But what I noticed recently is that, let's say in Germany, we have something called I don't know how it's called. It's a government institution that's around taxes.
Yeah.
So it basically gives you a formula. It's like 40 pages, and you have to tell them exactly what you bought and where your money went. So yeah, that's the thing, because then I thought, okay, if people have to do this every single year, they can't really have the mindset or have the motivation to truly break free and try new stuff, because there's like this institution in front of them that will probably take at least half of it.
Yeah.
And ever since since I'm not paying it right now because I'm still a student, it's chill. But as soon as you get a job, or as soon as you enter a certain phase in the I don't know how to say it, in the hierarchy of employerness, then they will come to you and say, okay, fill this out, we will take half of your money. So at the end of the day, I think that a lot of things society is built on is scarcity. You can see this in a lot of things that you mentioned, that I mentioned, and most of the stuff is probably designed to break this creative mind that a lot of us in this online space are chasing. And what would you say would be a way to empower creativity as an individual to, I wouldn't say cheat your way out of the system, but more do it in a good way, let's say.
Okay, so before we get into that, I want to like emphasize on a point, which is like you're in a scarcity mindset, right? And a way you can break free is like we said before, is self-experimentation. Like try something out. The thing that people need to realize is that society forgives failure. You can, for example, you're 20 or 21, right?
20.
20. You can go bankrupt tomorrow and you'll still be fine in life. Why? Because you're in a society, or like, yeah, so you can go bankrupt tomorrow and you'll still be alive because we're no longer in that hunter-gatherer phase where if you don't have food, you will die literally tomorrow. But you're in a society that will forgive you, and sure, you won't die, but it's just like, it's not, or you won't have a good life. It's just that it's not as dangerous failing as you think it is. Like, oh, I started a business, and by the way, like with online, you can start a business with relatively no money. I started writing on X, and I even posted this the other day. Where I was like, I started writing online, I started writing on X, and I didn't have a plan. Just people started noticing me. Then they asked for my help, and I helped them, and then I started charging for it. And then I realized that I started the business by accident. And so it's like, you can start a business, especially this is why I really like the idea of a micro business, is because you can start with no money, right? The only thing that you might spend money on is self-education. And by the way, if you're in a normal job and you're trying to build something new yourself, a business or whatever, self-education will always be the reason why you succeed, why you see success faster than others. So self-education is like courses, masterminds, mentorships, self-experimentation as well. It's like you trying something new that nobody has really tried, and you can find it. And so try something out, you're not gonna get punished by it. Like, even let's say, for example, you in Germany, I'm guessing the government doesn't really know that you're doing this, and so you can someone will probably pay you, let's say, 500 euros, and the government won't really know because they're too busy chasing some rich guy who's trying to evade taxes, right? So it's like, you can make money. You don't really need to, the bar to starting is super low. It's just that people make it a lot harder on themselves, where before they start, they're like, oh, I need to have an LLC. Like, I don't know if I need to create an LLC, an S Corp or whatever, when all you need to do is just like post online, see what people are attracted to, and then find something else. But for your question where you said, how can people get more creative? So this is something I struggled with a lot. Especially when I started writing online, because I never thought myself as a creative person. I still remember back when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, my art teacher asked us to draw like some guy in a library or whatever you want to draw. I forgot what she asked, but my drawing was so bad. I just drew like a stick figure and then like a box next to it, and then I drew like a really long line. And in my head, that was like, oh, a guy who's picking up a book from a library and a book like from a shelf, The teacher saw it, and she was like, she basically made me a joke in the class. She laughed at it, and she was like, this is the most horrible drawing I've ever seen. I was like, oh yeah, after this day, I will not do anything creative. I even wanted to go into architecture when I was in high school. I thought I wanted to go into architecture in uni, but then I decided not to because I'm not creative enough. But as I started writing online, I started getting more creative. And then that's when I realized that creativity is a muscle. The more you practice it, the better it gets, the stronger it gets. So it's like, you can also think of it as a water faucet. So if you don't use a faucet for a really long time, when you open it, what will you have? Like some really dark and black water, right? Like the sediments in that water is clogged. And so you need to let that faucet run for a bit until you get the clean water coming through. And it's the same thing with creativity. The first 3, 6, maybe even a year of just writing or trying to be creative, making videos or writing scripts, writing tweets, whatever it is, designing, that will be pretty hard. Like, I won't lie to you. For me, that was really tough for me to even write like a 1,000 word newsletter. I was like, holy shit, like this is super long. I don't know how I'll ever be able to do it. But now I'm writing like 4 or 5,000 word newsletters with relative ease. And it's just because I've been doing this for so long. The more you practice creativity, the more ideas you'll have, the better your skill, the better you become at your skill to express that idea, to express your creativity, the easier it gets. It's just like, it's a self-feeding loop where, let's say I'm a designer, I really like to design stuff. So a designer usually draws. His drawing will probably be really bad at the beginning if he has never drawn before. If he has an idea, it will be really bad. Like, the drawing will be really bad. But as he invests in himself and like self-educates himself and experiments and allows himself to fail, then guess what? In a year or 2 years, if he did it every single day, he will be like an expert, and he can charge quite a lot of money for a logo or for a few collection of designs that you want on a hoodie or a t-shirt. So it's just like a matter of practicing every single day, investing in yourself, and every single day trying to get better at what you're trying to do. Because the more you practice, the better you become at it. Creativity is a muscle. If you drop it, you will lose it as well. Like, that's kind of some advice.
Yeah, definitely reminds me a lot of my podcasting journey. So there was like a phase where, or like 1 or 2 weeks where I didn't do it, and I was so scared to do the next episode because I thought, okay, I can't do it anymore. But it really just takes a lot of practice, and we have to remember that at the beginning we won't be perfect. It will probably be very bad at the beginning, and getting through, I would say, beginner hell is always one of the hardest times in this whole journey. And
yeah, I mean, like, with you, I'm guessing, I haven't watched your first episode, but probably your first podcast was terrible. Like, if you look back at it, you'll just be like, oh my God, I can't believe I was asking these questions, like I was super awkward. But now, let's say episode 13 or episode 15 that we're on now, you're much better. And then just try to imagine at episode 100 or episode 1000 even, like, how good would you be at podcasting just because you stayed consistent? And most people, unfortunately, they quit because they're stuck in beginner's hell, where they don't really understand that the point of beginner's hell is to filter out the people who are serious from the people who are not. So if you are serious about what you're trying to do, you will stick to this whatever endeavor that you're trying to do, whether it's podcasting, writing online, starting a business, whatever it is, like designing as well. If you're really serious about this, you will stick to it with years, if not decades, and you will continue to invest in your self-education and experiment until you succeed. Because what else is there really to do?
And I think that if you're taking this more serious, you automatically are on your way to becoming a founder. And at the beginning of the call, I asked you, okay, what makes a micropersonal brand? And you said that it's a founder who creates something. And then you broke it down to essentials. So what did you really mean with essentials? You said it's an idea, a problem, and a solution. So let's start at the first one, the basic essential. How would you describe it, and how can I really find it?
The essentials. So the essential is just like, there's a principle, I think it's called like the first problem principle or something, like a mental model. I forgot what it's truly called, but it's basically the same way that Elon Musk built his SpaceX, like his first rocket, where he was like on his laptop, on his way back, he was like, oh, I want to start a rocket company, but every rocket costs like 400 million. And he didn't have the money. So he just asked himself, okay, what are the parts that I need? And I will do this myself. And so the essentials with a business is just always going to be a problem that a society has, a group of people, let's say. And it's painful enough for that they want to pay money for it. Because I know a lot of people try to solve a problem that isn't painful enough. So for example, let's say, like, I don't know, my room is always messy. It's not really a big problem. Like my room isn't messy. Actually, I barely have anything in my room, but uh, let's just say my room is messy, and it's not really painful. It's just I would not. It would be nice to have it clean and organized. And so, if someone came to me and he was like, "Hey, I will organize your room for you for like, let's say, $1,000 a month. Like I will come in there every single week or every couple of days and I'll organize it." I'm like, "Yeah, it's too expensive. Like I'd rather not. Like I'm still fine with where I'm at. Like I'm comfortable. Like the problem is painful enough, or like it's not painful enough for me to pay money for it, but it's painful enough for me to think about it." And so, like, it's a really shitty spot to be in if you're trying to solve, like, as a business person. And so, you want a problem that is painful enough, which is, hey, you don't have enough space in your room so to move. Like you can't even get to your bed to sleep. So I really do need to sleep. So unless if I have like $200 every single night to pay for a hotel, then I really need to clean my room, and I don't want to, so I'll just pay someone else. So that becomes a painful enough problem. The second thing is that the prospect that you're trying to sell them to, or trying to sell whatever you want, doesn't know how to achieve it. That can't solve that problem by themselves. Or, yeah, so let's say that they can't solve that problem by themselves, or doesn't know how to solve the problem. So, back to this really bad analogy of like my messy room. But let's say I tried to organize my room and I couldn't throw anything out because I saw everything as too valuable for me. And so if I paid someone else and he would come in and he would see things and he was like, "Nope, this is not valuable, this is not valuable, this is not valuable, so I'll throw this out," or something, a way for him to filter out what is valuable and what is not. And so I didn't know how to solve that problem, and he solved it for me. So I'm really paying for that as well. And then you want a desired outcome, which is a clean room, organized room, because it boosts productivity and whatnot. So that's really what you need, some essentials. If you want to take things like to the next level, you need to have a philosophy. So now let's move out of a messy room analogy and think a bit bigger. When you think about it, so let's take business now, for example, because this is a philosophy that I'm developing, that is sort of developed, but also continues to change. One thing I always need to ask myself is, why should people start a business? Like, why should you start a business? Why should I start a business? Why should the listener start a business? And now you need to create something of like a cult. Like, for a lack of a better word, you need to start like a cult. And for a cult to exist, you need certain things. You need to have an ideology, an identity that the member can adopt, and practices that they can do every single day to basically practice their identity, and to instill their beliefs and their ideas. And then, yeah, you always need that perfect life, by the way, or like an ideal life or an ideal outcome. So for me, the ideal outcome is you get to create work that you love. You wake up every single day excited. You get to help people who are truly in need. You get to feel fulfillment. You set your own hours, whatever you want, like you have financial freedom. You have complete control over your life. And identity is that every single one of us is a creator. So I'm a creator, you're a creator. And what is a creator? It's a person who creates stuff, creates value in society. And value is just, value is wealth that is still not represented. So what do I mean by that? So value can be relationships. Value can be knowledge. Value can also be assets. That is very or easy to imagine as wealth as well. But wealth is also like knowledge, like we said, because people will pay for knowledge. And I can also take a lot of money or take all of your money away from you. But if you have the knowledge, then guess what? You'll become wealthy again or rich again, just because you have knowledge. Health is also wealth, because if you have really bad health, you're gonna pay a lot of money. So it's like wealth is like ideas, values, or like value, and value can be like ideas, solutions, problems that you have, systems that you have. An audience can be a form of wealth as well, because people will pay a lot of money, businesses will pay a lot of money to get in front of your audience and whatnot. And so a creator is someone who creates value in society. And value is something that people want, people use in their daily life. So practices that you need as a creator who is starting a business. So now you can see where, if I'm trying to convince someone, is that you need to start a business because you were born a creator. Every single human being was born as a creator. Like when you think about it, every piece of technology that we've had, from, let's say, the fire, from the internet, conditioning, AI, and even Bitcoin, it all points to the same exact three things, which is sovereignty, autonomy, and creativity. Like the internet leveled the playing field of who can really start a business, and the job opportunity market opened up. Bitcoin and crypto basically decentralized the finance. The internet also like decentralized education, because now creators like you and I, we can create a course and we can educate people on, or we can run a cohort or whatnot, and we can have online education. AI decentralized labor. And so now you don't really need a marketer, you don't really need a salesperson, you don't really need a copywriter. AI can do it for you to a certain degree. It's still not there, but it will get there at the end. So you are a creator. Like humans have been creating these inventions, or like have been inventing, just so we can have more time, so we can have more autonomy. That is why you need to start a business. Some practices that you can have as a creator every single day is to create something, is to share an idea with people and to speak to people and solve their problems and see what they need. So like that, I forgot where we started with the question, but whatever that question was, this is my long-winded answer to it.
Yeah, I think you covered so much that I don't really have much questions left, but this uniqueness, I think this is one thing you haven't mentioned at what you said right now. So how can I bring uniqueness into this equation, I would say? So we had the problem. You said that it has to be a pressing problem for people to truly create value and to make people at the end buy from you. But where do you see this whole uniqueness in it?
So being unique has two different ways you can go about this. Number one is by statistics and probability, where you can say, okay, I am interested in pottery, I am interested in hiking, and I am also interested in something else, like finance or whatever. So, and let's say you are in the top 10% of each category that we just mentioned. Now, how many people do you think is in the top 10% of those, or like how many people are interested in those same exact three things that we just mentioned and who are as good as you? Well, the answer would probably be like no one, right? And so just by that, by choosing three broad topics and topics that you are naturally either good at or really excited about or passionate about, you naturally become unique. Like I never saw a finance guy who talks about pottery and hiking, or like found a way that can combine these three things together. But if you can, then you are by default unique. Another way you can do this is just simply by sharing your beliefs and your ideas. And this is kind of hard to do, because to develop a unique belief, a perspective, and a unique idea of the world, it takes a lot of practice, and you need to read a lot of books. You need to think about and self-reflect really hard on your life and how everyone else is living. Like for me right now, you're probably seeing this book in the background. Cheeky, it's being cheeky right there. Like I don't know, this red one. I don't know if you're seeing it. So I'm reading like Psycho-Cybernetics right now. Right?
Okay.
I have other books as well. But yes, just like by reading so many books, you can start to see that ideas connect with each other. You think, So in psycho-cybernetics, he talks about like how everyone has a built-in success mechanism, like how your mind achieves goals. And then I was reading another book about like flow state, and it was also talking about basically like how to increase your performance and enter flow state. And over there, he was like, you need to be very specific and start with a question, a goal in your head, so you can find some or like ask yourself like two questions, very specific questions, or like find two very specific ideas and see how they connect with each other. And that's how you're gonna train your mind into becoming more creative. And so when I combine the two, I'm like, oh, so the way that you access flow state is by setting a goal first. And that goal is to see how those two ideas connect with each other. And then whatever it is, it's just like you start developing and you begin to read broadly. I was also reading a book about spirituality, and it was talking about like how most people are asleep. And when I was like, what does he mean by asleep? And it was like, people go about their lives like being autonomous, like robots, right? They don't really think about themselves. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Like, why is that? And then I started asking about like situations in my life, and that's where a big brand pillar right now in my brand is, and in my writing, it's like societal programming and how you can program your mind to become successful. And guess what? When I had that as a brand and when I started reading Psycho-Cybernetics, now I can get those ideas in as well. So it's just like developing a unique perspective of the world really does take a lot of effort. And unfortunately, most people want something easy. There's not really an easy answer. Like the easiest way out of being unique is to just combine three topics, like broad topics, and see how you can, it's just like combine three broad topics and talk about them and make them consistent within your brand and see how everything connects within them.
Yeah, I heard or I learned a similar concept from Denker, who has this whole, I would say, whole philosophy of how branding should be. And one day he will also be on the podcast, but for now,
next week, bro.
Nah,
You're gonna have him next week.
Maybe the week after. But to the things you said about connecting ideas, my approach to this is a little bit different. I'm basically podcasting people I look up to, I want to vibe with, and all the people I podcast so far, including you, and the people I will podcast in the future are all people I would vibe with and I would learn from. And so I made it to my lesson that I want to take one concept of each talk and implement it. And by doing that, I gradually become a person who I wouldn't say has all the knowledge, but has knowledge of a certain group of people who he wants to be like. And by doing that, would say I upgrade myself at least, I would say 5% each talk. And now I'm at talk, I would say 12. The 10th is already out. But let's talk about Durati right now. It's the 13th episode. And 13 times 5 is 65. So I'm already 65% better than what I was earlier. And if I continue this, I hopefully become a person who knows a lot more about the space and who actually becomes a person who can go in front of these people and grow. And to the point earlier of connecting ideas, so now I'll come back from podcasting, is being. So being is a topic I recently learned from the first podcast I had, from the first talk. And ever since, it's funny that now I go through life with seeing being as a state of a person. And the more I notice, the more I realize that when I used to watch certain YouTube videos, I now rewatch, they all talked about being, but I never really noticed it. And I went back to an old course, one of Iman's old courses, and I was like, okay, this guy said that being is the highest form that a person can be. So I was there like, okay, why didn't I notice this the first time?
Yeah.
And this is just one of the random thoughts I had during this call, and I'd love to share all my random thoughts, but
No, like one thing I would say is because you're taking one big brand or like one big concept from each talk and applying it to your life, you by default become a unique person by doing that. Like nobody will take the same concepts like that you took and apply them to their lives with your unique experiences. And another thing you said is that, oh, now you realize like after your first talk, you went back to Iman's old course and you saw him talk about being. Another thing is that at that state, like at that stage of life where you first watched Iman's course, you weren't at the awareness level of like actually understanding why does that even matter until you gained enough experience to have your first talk and you were open enough to actually receive this sort of information, and then you start noticing it.
Yeah. But another thing, so we talked about ideas and combining them. How does it really work? Because from X, I see some people, especially one person on X who does it really well, which is combining random stuff they do throughout the day and combining them to their brand, or combining two ideas, or like you mentioned it earlier, a guy who talks about business and then combines it with dating. So would you say, is there a framework, or is this just experimenting and experiencing, enough writing, enough thinking until you truly master it or do it frequently on a high level?
Connecting ideas. A lot of it comes down to like intentionality. So it always, whatever you want to do in your life, you always need to start with a goal. Like whatever you want to do, you always need to start with a goal. And if you don't have a goal, your mind is always working towards a goal, by the way. So if you don't have a goal in your mind, you're working towards something, like your subconscious mind is working towards something. And that something will usually not be something good because you were programmed to do it by society or whatever, unless you've unprogrammed your mind into something else, like me, where I brainwashed myself into writing online. So you always need to have a goal. So let's say, why do I say you need to have a goal and being intentional? Because let's say my goal for today is to write a post on X. I want to write a post on X, something about podcasting, or let's say something about meeting people, right? And then I would go about my day. I'm like, I'll have this idea in my head. Oh, I want, like, okay, I can ask myself certain questions, like prompt myself, like, why is meeting people important? Why is meeting new people important? Is it important to meet old people, like people that you've known from the past or whatnot? Then you don't really know. And then you meet someone, or like you go to a coffee shop, you try to order, the barista looks cute. You ask her for her number and or you ask her out and she says yes. And you're like, or she says no. And you're like, oh, that's something nice. So I can write a tweet with like, you will meet people at the like weirdest places. Like I went into a coffee shop and I tried to ask a girl out and she said no. But then the person behind me laughed at me and I was like, what did you laugh about? And then we started a conversation, and it's just something else, you know? So you need to meet new people. It's just like you live out you need to become more intentional with the life that you're trying to live. And that's how you start to connect ideas. Because sometimes even when I'm on my way to the gym, I start, like, especially either when I'm going to the gym, like driving, or whenever I am on a run or something. That's where I listen to my thoughts a lot, or like speak to myself a lot. And I get to think about my thoughts and to actually see where they're coming from, or think about ideas that I want to write about. And then I think about my life, and then start to find things that connect. Like you don't really go about your day finding ideas. Usually the ideas come at the worst, or like not at the worst, like at the most sporadic and spontaneous times. Like I would say 3 days ago, I was on a run, and I've always had the idea of writing a newsletter telling people why they should run, right? And earlier this year, I ran over 1,000 miles in total. Like in 2.5 years, I ran more than 1,000 miles. And so when I was running today, or like that other day, I was like, oh, I ran over 1,000 miles. What are some lessons that I had what like life lessons that I learned while running? And I remember the story of how like a 60-year-old passed me when I first started running. Like I tried to catch him, I couldn't catch him. Like he was too fast for me, you know? I was like, oh, okay, so that's a nice story. So that's gonna be a lesson, which is looks don't really matter, or like everyone is running at their own pace. And then I had another story of like I ran my first half marathon just 4 weeks after starting to run, and I ran my second half marathon 2 weeks after that. So I was like, oh, the only way you actually get better at running is by doing something really hard. And before my first half marathon, the longest I've ran was like 7K. So I went into that first one not knowing anything about half marathons or whatnot. I was like, yeah, 21K is gonna be a breeze. Yeah, it was not a breeze. So it's just like I almost drafted an entire newsletter on a 5K run. And that's what I mean, which is when you go about your day being intentional and having a goal and doing a non-creative, demanding, or like focused task, that's when you're gonna get your ideas. Whether you go on a walk, you go about your day doing something random, or taking a shower or a nap, you will find your ideas there.
Yeah, and I still don't know why it's happening. I think that our mind just has different connections when we do different stuff. But
Yeah.
this reminds me a lot about my early days where I truly felt, okay, this makes sense. It was you just go through life, you have a rough idea, and then you just see something, and then it immediately reminds you of, I would say, your brand pillars. Because when I started talking about phone addiction, I was there in the tube, so on the train, and then I looked to the left, I looked to the right, I looked at the person in front of me, and every single one of them had their phone in their hand. And in this moment, I just wrote, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 posts about how people are glued to their phone and how they stopped seeing the world as it is. And that's, I think, the beauty of all of this. You have a big idea, and then you go through life with a certain lens of your own philosophy. And this makes, I would say, life a way more fulfilling experience. But
because like goals are a filter for life. Like they filter out the information that you receive. So let's say a child will never care about investing. It's not because that they find it boring, it's just because they're not really interested in it. Like their goal isn't to make money. Their goal is to have the most amount of fun. And they're gonna have the most amount of fun by playing video games, not by investing. Because they don't care about money. They think money is infinite at that stage. But an adult will always think about money in their heads and the ways that they can make money. And so they'll think about investing. They'll think about what stocks to pick, what kind of investing to make. Maybe the best investment they can make is to start a business because they can make like more money compared to a normal investment. So the way your goals shape your perspective and shape your reality. It's like a receiver or like a radio signal that you get to switch on and off, or switch between channels even just by changing the goals that you have.
Yeah, 100%. And in the long monologue you had earlier, you also talked about AI a little bit. And maybe this is one of the times of AI where we see just another step where people start personalizing themselves into AI.
Yeah.
We had it with Alex Hormozy earlier, like a few months ago. Now Iman is doing the same. I don't really know if I should say it because it's still behind closed doors. But
what do you mean by like personalizing themselves with AI?
So they basically take their whole philosophy and whole, I wouldn't say ideas, but their business mind and pressing it all together into an AI the person can talk to. So I would say we are at a stage where AI used to be a labor. Now it slowly becomes personalized. And I think it's a very exciting time because a lot of people are now doing it since Alex Hormozy did it. But where would you see AI right now and let's say in 1 year? Because you said it isn't there yet to truly replace us. But what we can see from these things is that people truly just need a few ideas, put it into an AI, and it can basically replace them as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, where do you see this trend going?
Honestly, like making predictions about AI is super hard because when the first ChatGPT came out, everyone was saying like, "Oh my God, AI is gonna be like when if AI finally gets good, it's gonna be like super long or so like let's say 20 years away." But just in the past 4 years, AI has gotten so much better at a rate like I don't think anyone would have imagined.
Mm-hmm.
Like right yesterday, I was on a call with a mentor, and he basically writes all of his emails through AI. And I got to see it in action. I was like, he legit just said like, oh, he was like, I got married a few months ago, so I will just tell AI I want to write an email about me getting married. And he had like his writing style and all of that written, like he gave it to the AI, and it wrote a full email, which was I wouldn't say like 100% good, but it was like 90% there. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is really good. Like even to the point where, um, even last year, exactly like 1 year ago, I started thinking of ways how I can use AI for my writing because like always writing a thread from scratch used to take me like a week to write. But now, after I basically trained AI on how to find the information that I want, I got that down into like a day or even less. So it's like making predictions with AI is super hard, but the best thing I can predict is say what I hope would be there. I'd like to see AI be more proactive because right now, when you think about it, AI is just always there and it's waiting for you,
Mm-hmm.
like waiting for you to talk to it, but it never really starts the conversation. So I'd love to see AI start a conversation or be more proactive. So I don't mind giving ChatGPT or Google, Gemini or Claude access to, let's say, my workspace, my writing space, and it can read my ideas and it can say, "Oh, hey, I'm seeing you're trying to write a newsletter about how to grow an audience. Um, I found your previous writing where you mentioned something similar. Here are some ideas that I think would be really well for you. Would you like to see them?" Or like it will give me the ideas by themselves. And so that I think would be a lot more realistic. And I think it will be there. I think I saw a post from Sam Altman the other day where it said something that ChatGPT will now like I think it was like ChatGPT Pulse, like a new feature called Pulse. It will think about your conversations and see your conversations, and it will start creating something or like create like give you an update or yeah, basically just like updating you on certain statuses that you've been doing. I think AI would also be more into our daily life where it will be in our calendar. We can put it in our calendar, put it in our emails. It will act as an assistant where it would say, hey, you have an email, like you have a new appointment on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Would you want to move this to Wednesday? Because I know you really like to train Tuesday evening. So I think it would be better if we move it to Wednesday. Would you prefer that? I would like, yeah. So now the AI would go ahead and talk to that other person and say, we've rescheduled you to Wednesday or whatnot. So I think like AI would be a lot more in our daily lives and work at, yeah, I think that's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
And
want to be super predictable or like go super in the future, but because I don't really know what
mm-hmm.
it's gonna be like.
Yeah, it's like I still remember when I was in last year of high school. Then was the time that AI came out. I still remember we had in biology like homework, and then I
Hmm.
said AI, okay, write me a little bit about this, and he totally missed the point and wrote total BS. And if I would give him the same task right now, he would give me an almost perfect answer.
Yeah,
And the thing with AI is now we're at the stage where I can't be distinguished from normal humans, and this
yeah,
is a scary, yeah, I would say more scary um, thing than I thought it would be, because now we're at a stage where we don't really know if the things online are AI generated or not. And to the point of the email, so a lot of AI I'm using right now, which
hmm,
are more private, so it's only limited access to a certain group of people, which bought from Iman. So his AIs are trained on all of the, I would say, knowledge base from WOP, the thing he bought, so the online marketplace he bought, and it combines this with your writing and then creates content for you. But like you said earlier, it will create something, but at the end of the day, it won't be perfect, and it still needs a certain, I would say, sprinkle of your uniqueness. And this is the thing I'm most scared of. If AI can do the sprinkle, then it can truly replace you, but it's truly unpredictable. Now back to the point. So you said a little bit about using AI to write your threads. What are other things you use AI for when it comes to writing or content creation?
Yeah. So I use AI also to like help me clarify my idea. So sometimes I'm like, my last newsletter, I talked something about like identity and autonomy and what is the difference between the two. I never really thought about the difference between the two. I thought like autonomy is just like having complete control over your life, and identity is just something you identify with. And so in my head, it didn't really I didn't see a connection. But when I started speaking with AI, I forgot what the prompt was, but it was just like something, and it helps you pay attention to what you're trying to say, right? And it helps you clarify your ideas or finds your big idea. So when I spoke to it, and the conversation started basically by like why everyone should start a business or something like that, and it went into something like autonomy or like something about identity. It asked me like, why is that really important? I'm like, oh, because people want to do certain things in their lives and they can't do them because they're in a job that takes all of their energies and whatnot. And then I forgot about that chat for a while. I just went on with my day. And then a few days later, I had the idea of like, oh, autonomy is being able to practice your identity. Because when you think about it, autonomy makes you feel happy, right? You feel happy because you're in control. You can do whatever you want. And what does that really mean, doing whatever you want? You're not really doing anything that you want. You're not really doing everything, right? You're doing the things that are aligned with your identity, with things that you believe in. Like, I don't believe in murder. I don't think you are a murderer. So we're not gonna go ahead and kill people just because we have the ability to. We do things that are in accordance with our autonomy. So I came up with the realization, or I had the realization, that identity or like autonomy is the ability to practice your identity. And that came mainly through AI. The other thing was that I sometimes also ask AI like, hey, read my newsletter, right? I'm stuck on this idea and I don't really know how to continue with it. Like, give me some suggestions? And it just gives me some, usually they're bad suggestions, but like sometimes it's just like, I ask it like, hey, I think like this is what I'm trying to hammer home in this section of the newsletter, but I don't really know because I got stuck on this idea. And then it would start asking me clarifying questions. And so I usually mostly use it for like clarity and more than it doing tasks. Like, except for today where I used a bit of AI to help me write an offer. It's just because I'm really bad at copywriting. I don't generally like copywriting. So I just like outsource it to AI or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like so much you can do with it, and I think that no one in the world really knows the full potential of it, except like the guys like Sam Altman who are in the back end and truly can like harness all of its power. But I think that at the end of the day, it always comes down to the person who's using it, how they use it, and what intentions they have with AI. And I saw a lot of people throughout my day who use AI completely differently. Some of them use it to write like, what are they called? So if you support a message to, I don't know, Amazon or PayPal, the other guy is using it to write a thesis, and a totally different guy is using it to do his
For
homeworks. So there's like so much you can do with it, and niching it down to writing, I think that still then there's so many different layers of it. And
one thing I also use AI for, it's a good thing you mentioned like thesis. You reminded me of that. Oh, I'm still at college. Is I'm actually using it for my thesis as well. So I have it to write. I have it to write my stuff as well. I obviously change it. It's just like, hey, I don't really want to write it. Do the like the hard part. I'll just do the easy part. I also have it um like program for me because okay, I know how to program, but it will take me a long time to. I will have a lot of bugs and whatnot. So I'm just like, yeah, I don't really want to waste my time. So it's just like outsource it to AI because at the end of the day, AI just decentralized labor, right? I
mhm.
don't need to do it myself. I'm a human. I get to think. I have a consciousness. My job is to think, not to work. And that goes back to my philosophy, which is every piece of technology and advancement we had as a civilization is towards autonomy, sovereignty, and creativity. Anything that we do has to fall within these three things, unless otherwise you will be unhappy with your life. And so, yeah, it's just like I outsource my AI to like write my code, sometimes write my thesis. Other times, like I ask it, hey, I don't really know what to do here with my thesis. What do you think is a good plan to move forward? And then I have that, and then I go to my professor after I do everything I had my AI tell me to do. And then it's just like my professor, oh, this is really good, like, did you do this by yourself? I'm like, yeah. So it's just like, yeah, AI is super. Honestly, like, I don't know how people lived before AI. Like, can you imagine? Like, 100 years ago, we didn't have AI.
The thing is,
It's kind of wild.
my father said, okay, you guys have all the internet. Why don't you like build stuff? Back then, when AI wasn't a thing, he said, you
Yeah,
have the internet, you have all the knowledge in the world. We used to go to libraries. And
yeah.
then I think about people who didn't have a library. So what did they do? They probably went to a person and asked them, and then went to another person and asked them. So I think that this is such an exciting time to live in if you truly know how to use this stuff. But back to the micro business.
Yeah.
So we covered ideas, problems, and a solution. So
Hmm.
they're all based on you, what you experience, where the market needs the help. How do I now attract people with it? So we have a problem, we know people
Hmm.
need it. We have a solution that worked for us and let's say a few other people we tested it on. How do I
Hmm.
now go into the market and promote this idea?
So I really like this because when I started my business, or like when my business started to take off, that is what I help people with, which is traffic. That's what we're going to be talking about, which is traffic. And that is what I was really good at, like generating a lot of traffic. So finding people. So we already talked about like how not all attention is equal, right? So you can reach 1 million people, but if you're reaching the wrong 1 million people, then you're doing it wrong. Like they won't buy, or the conversion rate won't be as high. Um, so what you need to think about, and this is something that is very hard, is that when you have a specific person in mind, whether you call it your ICP, the customer avatar, whatever marketing name you want to give it, when you go on social media and you write to that person, and by the way, I have a kind of a different approach, which is I don't really like to write to a person. I like to write about a problem or about a goal that people want instead of a person where the typical advice of like, oh, I imagine like my ICP is some guy who's a 33-year-old is in a finance job at an office, like they have all of these details. To me, that's just like marketing jargon, that marketing mumbo jumbo that you don't really need. Uh, like what you really need is just to appeal to the human desires. Like what do people want? Which, hey, guess what? Not so. Let's say you want to land more dates. let's take this guy who took this marketing mumbo jumbo and is only writing to a 33-year-old person who is in a finance job. Okay, now is he the only type of person that is interested in dating and interested in getting more dates? No. So just by default, you're missing out on a huge market. And sure, now you can make the argument of like, oh yeah, but he can afford me, he can afford my services or whatnot, but that's not what we're going to be talking about, not who can or can't afford your services. It's just like you want to reach a certain group of audience, help people with a problem, which is getting more dates. And so when you think about it in that sense, it will sound dumb of why you're only limiting it to 33-year-olds or people in their early 30s. So just like talk about dates in general. Like make the person a general person who has a specific problem. We're not targeting specific people, we're targeting specific problems. That's the difference that we're taking. And so when you go, and why is that really important? Because when you think about it, you don't control who sees your content on social media, right? Like I have an audience of almost 25,000 people. I don't know who my target audience is. Like if you told me like who is my ideal client, I would say a person who's late 20s, early 30s, and is trying to build a business or something. I don't have a specific person in mind, so that's why I made it up. But yeah, so it's like I don't know how many of those people are actually in my audience. Like I can look at the analytics, it will tell me like the specific age group that you have, but I'm not really sure, right? Like, can they afford my services? Maybe he's a drug addict, maybe he's something else. Like, I don't really know who sees my content. And so with content, you don't treat, and with social media, I'm talking about social media here because it's the most beginner friendly and the cheapest way you can start. Like I started as a broke college student, and so my only option was social media. And social media, you get to test a lot of ideas and get a lot of feedback relatively fast compared to ads, which takes more skill and you need a big budget to pull it off. So content, you don't control with social media, you don't control who sees your content. And so you need to make your content broad, or at least you need to make the person you're talking to a broad audience. You're just going to be talking about a specific problem. Because now let's say we're talking about dating. Sure, you might not have a problem with dating, like you specifically, like Abdul Qadir doesn't really have a problem with dating, but you know someone who has a problem with dating. And so what will you do? You're going to share it to them. And now, like we're going to start to see like the viral effect where one person shares it to someone else. And if it did land on someone who I really want to help, like the person that I am trying to help, let's say a person who is struggling with dating, then they will also share it. And guess what? They're gonna follow you. They're gonna buy your stuff. They're gonna talk to you. And so, how to get eyeballs? So you start off with a problem, a specific problem that you want to solve, or like you want to talk about. You want to meet the readers where they're at. Like this is a big marketing concept or like a copywriting concept that I learned, which is always meeting the readers where they're at. Big problem that I see a lot of writers and content creators make is that they don't know they don't know how to make their audiences feel seen and heard and understood. And so let's say with dating, my ideal client, the person who I want to help, I'm probably not the first person they watched or listened to or saw content about dating and is going to help them with dating. And so that person has tried to solve their problem before and couldn't. And so my job as a creator is tell you, hey, you have this problem in your life. It's caused by X, Y, and Z by certain reasons. And this is how the reasons really work. So I am displaying my authority and displaying my expertise and depth and knowledge that I have. The second or the third thing is going to be like reasons why certain solutions that you've tried in the past don't really work. Because again, your reader has tried something before in the past and it didn't really work. Because when they're going to see your content the first time, they're going to say, yeah, I tried dating, I tried talking to women, but it didn't work for me. So why should I listen to you, you know? And you're going to be like, oh, yes, but you don't need to approach every single woman, or the way you approached her, your body language was off or whatever. So, I need to tell you why certain methods didn't really work. Or like as maybe one guy would say, "Oh, I bought a book with the 100 best pickup lines of 2025, and I couldn't land a date." I'm like, "Yes, because they like pickup lines don't really work. They're just like a cheesy way of getting your foot in the door. The rest is what actually matters." And then you can tell people a solution or a mechanism or a process, a step-by-step solution on how they can solve that problem. So like that is the general bones of it. With the hook, it's a bit different because every platform has a different hook, a different way you can write a hook. For Twitter, I would say it's generally like a simple. So with hooks, I like to use copywriting frameworks. The reason I like to use them is just because it's a formula, and with a formula, you can just follow it. You can close your head, you can follow a formula, you'll get a good output, or you will get the output that you want. And so I like to use the PAS framework and the ADA framework as well. So with PAS, I wrote a hook. My first viral hook, or like my first viral thread, was about caffeine. And I had a unique perspective about caffeine, which is it's dangerous for you. Because at that time I went on a 3-month caffeine break where I didn't have any caffeine because I was interested in sleep and improving my sleep and improving my health. And so when I started reading about caffeine, I was like, oh my God, this is a very dangerous drug that people don't really know about. And so when I used the framework or the PAS framework, so it starts off with a problem. And this is a guideline more than a template that you just fill in whatever you want. You templatize the framework later on once you have a proven hook. So my hook was something like the most used, abused, and dangerous drug in the world. So that is my first line, which I'm very proud of, by the way. And it ended up getting templatized, and a million other people on X started using my hook. So anything that is somewhat similar, just know it came from your boy. And then I was like, oh, the most used, abused, and misunderstood drug in the world, it's caffeine. It's the reason of why you can't sleep, you're miserable and always tired, something like this. Like problems that people have. So now it's like these are the people that I'm targeting with my content, which is you are waking up every single day feeling tired, but you love caffeine so much and you don't really know that it's the reason. And then it's just like, well, here's why caffeine is so dangerous and like how to consume it properly, basically. And then I just talked about caffeine and a bit of my experience being caffeine free for 3 months. So it's just like you need to understand like what really makes your content unique. You can watch other people's contents about the same topic and see something. You will find a pattern that is being repeated. So that is a good sign that you can use for your own content. So you can use that. Another thing is you can be polarizing, but I would say be cautious while being polarizing, because you don't want to be like polarizing for the sake of polarizing and getting high engagement, because again, like not all attention is equal. So it's just like, yeah, that is basically how you generate attention. You need a network. And by the way, you need a network of people who can share your content. So like how you can build out a network is you can either pay for them, like you can pay an account to retweet your stuff. You can get your friends to retweet your stuff, like to share. You can get your friends to comment, like people that you've met online to comment and share them, because your friends, after all, like you're all trying to build a business. It wouldn't make sense for them to share. Like one thing I would say is some people are really bad at this, so they don't really know how to do it. So the way I do it and how I get my network to share is just like I write a post and it reminds me of, oh, Abdul Qadir is really interested, like he talks about phone addiction. And so I wrote a post about dopamine, which is somewhat related to phone addiction. I'm like, I'll send it to you and say, hey, Abdul Qadir, I just wrote a post about dopamine. I think you'll really like it. Take a read at it. If you enjoy it, I'd appreciate a retweet. Otherwise, like, no worries, like it's all good. And guess what? Now you're going to see my post. You're going to like it. You're probably going to comment, or if you're going to read it, and then you're probably going to comment. And if you really like it, you're going to share it. Like that's something similar of what I did almost 2 weeks ago, where I wrote a story, or like I wrote a thread about my story and how I started. And then I realized like that some people that I met, some big creators, like Kieran, like Tim Denning and Dan Cole, I've worked with them before in the past, but they don't really know who I am and they don't really know my story. And so when I wrote the post, I was like, I just sent it to them like, hey, I know we worked in the past and we talked quite often, but you don't really know my story. So I think this thread you're gonna enjoy this thread. And then guess what? Danko retweeted my thread. Tim Denning liked my thread and commented, or he liked my thread. Kieran liked my thread and commented. And it's just like, and that just because just because they engaged with my content, my post did really well. And so you need to know how to use your network effectively to get attention as well. Because relying on the algorithm and hoping to get lucky is probably what 99% of creators are doing right now, and is the exact same reason why they can't find any success with traction.
Yeah, definitely a network of people who know you and people you vibe with is something Ben is currently teaching Lolanax, and he said that you should have at least of 5 to 7 or 5 to 9 people who you truly vibe with and who you hop on calls with and who will read your stuff and who will acknowledge it, share it, etc., etc. So a network is really important, and I myself do this, I would say, once a month. So I take, let's say, a podcast. So I say I had 8 podcasts in the last 2 months. Here are my lessons from it. And then I just tag all the people who I podcast and said, okay, from at, I don't know, Tanya Shaped, I learned this and that. So I try this, but definitely so reaching out to people you know is oftentimes the best way for other people to read your stuff. And for a long time I was hesitant to do it because it felt very like forceful. You force them to read it, you force them to comment on it. But since I got a few of these requests, I noticed that, okay, it's a very chill thing and a very nice thing in many ways. So why not read it? Why not retweet it? So yeah, I think that after this call, I will definitely do this a lot more because, right now it's at a phase where, okay, I focus a lot more on other stuff, and getting my content in front of people usually would take me like 1 week of engaging 100 times a day. And since I have more important stuff to do, like in alpha, like reading, like studying, like writing, I would say that the approach you just said is way more efficient.
Yeah, because like in this way, you're borrowing their audience as well. Like they're introducing you to their audience. And when you think about it as from the reader's point of view, let's say I went onto your page, or like, let's say I went to Tanya Shaped's page and I saw she retweeted your, whoops, my bad, my phone rang. But let's say I went onto her page on Twitter and I saw she retweeted your post. I'll be like, who is this Abdul Qadir guy? You know, like, who is this guy who's making a podcast? Let me look at him. And then I read your post and I'm like, oh, this guy's kind of a big deal. Like he had Sean, he had whoever is in as well. Like I think Gib. And so I was like, oh, interesting. Like, who's this guy who's getting these big creators? You know, like, let me follow him. Let me see what he's doing. And you just expose yourself to new people.
Yeah, and this was the original idea of doing a podcast, just to, I would say, broaden my name across X, but then it slowly became a more passionate thing and a value thing. And right now I just do it because I like it, because it creates value, and because, most importantly, I learn from it, and the guest gets to share their ideas in such a compact time, which is, I would say, just a nice thing to do. And as someone who listened to The Diary of a CEO for almost 4 years, it was one of the things I had to do. So yeah, it's a nice thing to kind of expand my network through podcasting. And right now I try to catch up with people I podcast at the beginning. So I kind of forgot about them, and I now try to relive or revive these episodes by putting 2 of them each week and on YouTube, so they get to be acknowledged again. But this is a process which has a lot of experimenting in it, and I would say I'm not the best. I'm just at episode, I would say 13 and half of the podcast. So this is a statistic I read about last week, which is that 50% of podcasts end before or at the 3rd episode. So just getting through, I would say, beginner hell of podcasting wasn't easy, because at first episode I did the biggest mistakes possible, fluffed around a lot. I had 3 or 4 breaks during the talk, had a lot of stuttering, had a lot of repeating words, and most importantly, I used the wrong microphone and sounded like crap. And this became a lesson that I still can't forget. And because of that, I literally bought the microphone that's right now in front of me and that arrived a few hours ago. So,
Oh shit.
yeah, a lot we could talk about, but now I want to end the section around micro-personal branding. I think we learned a lot. We learned a lot from scaling it down to one person, then taking this and breaking your thoughts down into 3 buckets of broad ideas. This makes your unique angle. Combining all of these with ideas, problems, and then coming up with a solution, and at the end, giving it out to people. So a lot of steps that are really thought out, and I think that the reader, or the listener in this case, can truly learn from and mirror it to their own brand. Now I want to go more over mentors or people you look up to in this journey. Who are some other mentors, and what exactly did you learn from the mentors you already mentioned?
Cool. So with Dan, I really like Dan's approach of like being a holistic creator instead of the typical of like, hey, you need to niche down, you know? So like Dan's holistic approach of like taking spirituality, business, fitness, and all of those ideas into account and creating a unique brand is appealing to a lot of people. And it appeals to a lot of people for a reason, because it speaks to them directly. It shows to them like, hey, like who doesn't want to get paid to improve their life? You know, like it sounds like the ultimate dream. Like, oh my God, I get paid to solve my own problems. Like I'll solve every single problem that's in my life and I'll get rich from it, you know? Like that's the first idea that people get. And just like the entire idea of a one-person business. Like before Dan, I thought legit like the only way you can start a business is by either taking out a bank loan and starting in real estate, buying an office, getting an assistant, some big marketing teams, and going, let's say, 300, 400K in debt before you even made a single penny. And you need to waste like a full year or two creating a marketing plan, searching for investors and seeing if there's a market for what you're trying to do. If there is none, then you just basically burn down all of your money. So like the idea of a one person business, the idea of a personal brand where you can get clients, you can get even normal jobs. Like you don't need to start a business. You can find your employers on social media, because that's where they are, to be honest. Like everyone is on social media. Your boss is on social media. Your future boss is on social media. Your future employer is on social media. So if they see you on social media and they see you as someone who is serious, who is sharing their own projects, learning, building new projects as well on their own, it shows them that you know what you're doing and that you are serious and that you will be a valuable addition to their team or whatever. And by the way, I've seen people in life, like in my personal life, who were able to get a job just because they posted. So I know someone who got a job as a graphic designer solely through posting on Instagram about like their art. That's legit all they did, and they got a job. And it's a really high paying job as well, which they wouldn't have gotten that job if they weren't posting on social media. So like social media is the new business. Like if you don't see social media as a new business and you see it as filled with scammers or whatnot, then you will struggle in life, because even big brands are now paying creators to promote their content, because people don't trust ads anymore. People don't watch ads. People watch creators. Creators they like. Creators who have an audience, who create value. Those are the people who actually succeed. Sure, social media is filled with scammers and people who don't have anything valuable to add, but it's nothing. It's not like it's something to look down upon. It's just they're early in their journey, and they're gonna learn skills, and they're gonna become someone who is valuable, who will create value in society, and they will succeed. Because when you see a one-person business, there's no real success or failure. Like there is no real failure, because you can't convince me that someone has failed at life. Like failing at life is impossible in my head. And so like that is the biggest thing I learned with Dan, which is just like, because he's the reason why I started, and his philosophy is, I would say, had the biggest impact. Kieran was my first mentor that I paid like high tickets for. Like I paid him a few $1,000s, like 3 or something. It was only for like an 8-week mentorship. It was even group coaching. It wasn't even one-on-ones. Like I think most people wouldn't have paid that. It's because it's like, oh my God, it's group coaching. I don't want that. But I value self-education, and I've paid right now more than $12,000 or $15,000 in education courses and mentorships. Kieran was my second mentor, I would say, or like my first real mentor that I paid. And I learned from him like the business side of writing, because before that I was just writing. Like I thought, oh, the better that I am at writing, the more clients I'll get. But there are a lot of people who are struggling artists who are really good at writing, and I've met people who are amazing at writing, but they can't make a single penny. The only reason is because they lack or they miss the money-making skills, which is marketing, sales, and persuasion. So with Kieran, I learned the business side of writing, where I got to see like, oh, how do you create an offer? How do you do a proper launch? How do you get testimony? Because you hear this stuff a lot, by the way, on social media, where they say, work for free, get some testimonials, use your testimonials for case studies, start charging people, use those new people as case studies and testimonials, increase your prices, then turn it into a cohort, then turn it into a product. Like that is generally what people say. But for me, I never did any client work, like free client work. I immediately started with ghostwriting, charged people like $250 for a thread, for a single thread, and I gave them no guarantee. I was like, this is my offer, take it or leave it. And by the way, I was very bad at that time. That was even before working with Kieran. The only reason I was able to do that is because I had results for myself. So I didn't need to go ahead and waste months of my time working for someone for free, like most people do. And so with Kieran, I got to basically create an offer that people wanted. So I was a ghostwriter for mental health experts and therapists who were launching on X, like launching products on X. So I used to help them. And so what I did, I was like, okay, instead of me doing it for other people, let me teach people how to do it themselves. So I immediately went into a cohort model where I did a group coaching for like 6 weeks. That first launch, so before that launch, I fired all of my ghostwriting clients. At that time, I was making like 4K a month. That was the highest that I've made. But I was working like crazy, and I didn't even enjoy ghostwriting. I went in there by accident. I just got people who are interested, and they were like, hey, we want a ghostwriter. I was like, sure, I'm not making any money and I want to make money, so I'll take anything. But with Kieran, like I always wanted to do courses. But Kieran told me like, hey, do a cohort first. Like don't jump into a course immediately, because there are many reasons. The fact that you never tested your process on other people. Sure, it works for you, but you never tested it on other people. You don't really know what people are struggling with. You might be solving the wrong problems. Like we said before, is that you might solve a problem that isn't painful enough. And so when I did my first cohort, I made like I had a 4K launch. I got like 5 clients, and immediately my workload went from like when I was working like 40 hours a week for my ghostwriting clients to like 10 hours a week, just because I went into a cohort model. I was making the same amount of money, working 3 or 4 times less, right? And then Kieran also showed me like, how do you actually turn people into a case study? How do you use them as marketing materials? Because you can't just post, oh, here's a client that I've had, like, look at the success that he's had, you know, like, look at me, I'm super awesome. Like, you don't really do that. Like, testimonials and case studies should be strategic the way that you use them. You don't just post random client wins that you see on social media. And so Kieran showed me like how to do that. So how to do launch, first of all, how to create an offer, how to create a program that people can follow, because before that I didn't really have a program. How to create a course as well, like that's very important. He just showed me like the entire business side of things. And then after that, I went ahead and started working with Tim Denning. And the reason I did that, because Kieran does courses. That's his main thing. Like, he monetizes his brand with courses. And he has a very big email list and very big audience. Like, I think his audience is close to 250K, and his email list is around 30,000 email subscribers. And for comparison, my audience on social media is like 2,500 or like 25K, and my email list is around 2,600. So it's like the difference between me and Kieran is like 10x. Mm-hmm. And so for me, making or trying to reach my monetizing goals and my revenue goals, I can do it either with courses alongside like one-on-one coaching, which takes up a lot of time, like one-on-one coaching, or I can just do the cohort model. Sure, I can have a course on the side with it as well, but yeah. So for me, I was like, because my first launch was so successful with the cohort, I made 4K, 5 clients. I was like, what if I 4x everything? So let's say take on 20 clients, that's like 16K. So I was like, not bad. Like, I could probably even charge them more, and I could reach 20K with 20 clients. That is very realistic with the audience size that I have. And so with Tim, I went to Tim because I know Tim has something that I want, which is he runs group coaching or like cohorts, and he works with clients. He doesn't really do courses anymore. I was like, I want you to teach me. It's as simple as that. And with Tim, I realized that if you want to make like serious money, you need to be launching almost every single week. Like every 2 weeks, at least the minimum is once a month. And this is something I learned with Kieran as well. Like, I'm not going to say that Kieran didn't teach me. The problem I see a lot of people have is they have an offer, right? The problem is that they don't know how to get the clients. And they think just because they have an offer, clients are going to come in like randomly. Like, they're going to wake up tomorrow, they're going to get a DM of someone wanting to go basically work with them. But that doesn't happen. Like, if you think that's how you're going to monetize, nobody's going to come to you. You need to have a proper launch. And that's what one thing that Kieran helped me a lot is you need to have a launch. People need to know that you are launching, that this is the time to work with you, this is the time that they join. Because if it's available 24/7, people won't buy. People are going to keep saying, oh, I'll buy it when things get better. I'll buy it when I have more money saved up. I'll buy it when I have more free time. But when you tell them, hey, I am opening tomorrow, and you have 7 days to join. Other than that, like, you're going to have to wait a full year, or this is the last time I'm opening the doors. You will join, and you will, like, all of the excuses are going to disappear. And so with Tim, like, I learned that idea became really engraved in my head, which is you need to launch. You want money, you need to launch. You want clients, you need to launch. Your group coaching doors are closed, launch a workshop. create something low ticket product, launch it, teach it to people, give it to the people who are inside your group coaching. Use that workshop as a funnel to your group coaching. Like launch something. Like you want to make money? Yes. Okay, go ahead and launch. Like it's as simple as that.
Mhm.
You have an idea, ask people like if they struggle with the problem, find the problem they're struggling with, create a workshop, solve the problem, launch it. Launch the workshop. Get people in. I don't care how you do it, whether it's email, content, DMs, sales calls. I don't care. Get people in, get them to buy from you. Then get people into your group coaching. Like that's like Tim Denning, I would say, is very intense. Like with the business side, like people like to say Tim Denning is a writer, but I see him more as a business guy more than a writer. Like Kieran and Danko are writers to me, but Tim Denning is a business guy. Like through and through is a business guy. He's really good at writing, yes, but he's a business guy at heart. And because I think like even his story, he used to work in banking and whatnot. So like he's really good at sales. And he's very intense like with business. So yeah, like that is I think is a good and long-winded answer to what I learned from these big three people. I don't want to like there are a lot of more people, but I don't want to take up the entire night just talking about the people that I've learned things from.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are in every one of us journey. So for me, it started with Iman, and then since I went into more of the X niche, it became Dan, and now it's switched back to Iman. So
Yeah,
it's always depending on your situation. So like you said, you started with Dan because he got you into it. Then you went to Kieran. Then you went to Tim based on the needs you had at the position you were. And in the position I'm right now, it's the best for me to follow Iman. So I will do this the following month and the month after, or maybe even until next year. I don't know how long, but this will be my trajectory. One of the last things we'll talk about are books. So you already mentioned Cybernetic.
Yeah.
What other books would you say inspired you to what you're doing right now or giving you the best ideas? Is there like a certain types of books? Because right now I'm kind of in a shift of reading. So I used to read all these mindset books, but now I went back to more classics and fiction.
Like what?
So yeah, what would you say is your strategy with it?
What kind of classics are you reading at the moment?
I now have short, I wouldn't say short, but it's meditation. So the German version of it. So I always have it on my side. I bought a lot of these. So it's like a brand in Germany who always puts out these yellow books, and I have 5 more all around like this time from Max Aurelius. Then a lot later was Kant. Then there is one more. I don't really know the name anymore, but they're like so small I can't really read them. But White Knight, this is what I'm reading right now. Then I wouldn't say it's a classic, but it's a book that is very unusual, which is The Ultimate Coach. This is the book that talks about being. It's a very fascinating book because it's a biography of a coach, but he never wanted to write a book or have a book about himself. So his wife wrote one about him, and then he published it. And the only thing he added to the book was the first 2 pages and the back page. He said every time you read this book, first read the back page and the first 2 pages, and then start reading it. And it's such an interesting book, and I would say it helped me a lot, and I'm almost done with it, which is amazing. Then another classic, The Alchemist, but yeah, the fiction side. So the last or the third book I'm reading right now is Dune. So I'm going through the series, and the thing is, even the first like 50 pages, I still remember them because they were written so well. And I think that writers especially online writers, should read more fiction because you get the craziest idea from it.
Really?
Definitely, because especially we're doing more like educational content. But when you see writing only as this educational thing, you only wire your mind into a certain type of thinking. But once you add fiction, and especially these types of fiction, which are science fiction, you get totally new ideas around psychology, emotions. I would say, even expand your writing capacity because of all the difference between fictional writing and non-fictional writing. So yeah, this is right now my strategy to expand my reading as a whole. And yeah, and I'm curious what you're reading right now because Psycho Cybernetic is like on my shelf and I haven't really touched it since I bought it. But yeah,
I mean, like for me, I'm still kind of early in the books. I think like this is how much I've read so far, which I think is like what? It's an embarrassingly low number. So it's like 31 pages. So I think it's a bit more. It's just like I don't remember. So I don't really know. But so some books that I really like to read is like books that are in the same category as psycho-cybernetics. I'm not really sure what they call it, like psychology or whatever it is, whatever this genre is. Then I read this kind of genre. Like I'm not really a very book reader, like an avid reader. I just read whatever I find is appealing to me. So the idea of the psycho-cybernetics, I really liked it, so that's why I'm reading it. Also, I have these 3 books. So the first book that I first read is like the Book of Five Rings. Maybe you've read it. It's like by Miyamoto Musashi. He's basically it's said that he's the best samurai in history. This book is very small, like I think it's like around 120 pages or something. Yeah, it's like 100 pages. 103. So it's very short. It's a very short book. It's just basically like the 5 rings, and it's Miyamoto Musashi is the one who wrote this book. He wrote it as like lessons to a student that he was writing to. And it's like every ring or like every chapter talks about something. And one thing that really stuck with me in this book is that the idea of to not be one-dimensional in your thinking. So he brought this example of how there are different schools of swords, or like different schools of teaching, of like combat. He said like there are some people who argue that the ultimate weapon is the bow and arrow. Some people say it's like a normal sword. Some people would say it's a dagger. Some people would say it's the katana, which is I think kind of shorter than the normal sword. Some people would say it's the really long sword because for whatever reason, right? And he brought the example like if you have the really long sword and you were in a really tight space, you can't really use the sword to its full potential because the idea of a long sword is that your opponent can't get to you. And so in a really short space, like a small space, the one with the dagger or a shorter sword is better than you. Like he has the advantage. But if you go into a wide space, an open space, the one with the long sword is in the advantage. But if you put an open space with a bow and arrow guy with whatever type of sword, then the guy with the bow and arrow is winning until that gap is closed. Then that person wins. And so that's the idea, which is don't be one-dimensional in your thinking. Another thing was to always to be calm and to dedicate your life to the way of the strategy. And his strategy is to pure focus, always think about your goal, always practice your techniques, always learn new things. And so it's really nice. So it's a good book to read, I think. And it's very short. It's a kind of a philosophical book as well. The second book, I think you've heard this book a million times. It's the Almanac of Naval. I think if you ask me, who is the founder of the creator economy, the guy who created all of this, it's the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I think everyone who talks about the creator economy is getting their ideas from here. This is the dictionary, this is your whatever you want to call it. Everyone gets their ideas here. I have a couple of ebooks in my iPad, but we'll get to those later on. book that I've been reading this year and really been enjoying it is The Molecule of More. It talks about dopamine and how dopamine works, which I really find fascinating. Like anything around health, I'm really fascinated by it. So these are like 4 books. Um, I have a couple of more books here. So I still haven't read Flow. I bought it, but like its length, I was like, yeah, I don't really know if I'm gonna read it. So there's that. There's The Art of Impossible, which talks about like flow state. I read I think like 40 or 50 pages, and then I stopped because I was like, yeah, I'm not really interested in focus and flow, so let me put that. Maybe if in later days I will enjoy it. To the ebooks, right now I'm reading a spirituality book. It's called Awareness by Anthony DeMello or Anthony DeMello. One thing I didn't know about spirituality books is the way they're written. So the way they're written is usually like the guy who is Anthony DeMello, let's say, gives a talk or a seminar, like a real person seminar, and it gets transcribed and it gets put in the book as a chapter. So that's what you're reading. And when you're reading it, you will see it. Like it feels very much like a seminar more than a normal book. One thing that I also read was The 4-Hour Work Week. I liked it. I think it had like good ideas of, hey, you can just start a business, you know, you don't need to solve very big problems, you need to work less, earn more, enjoy life. Another one I also liked is, I think it's a good marketing book for people to read. It's called The One-Page Marketing Plan, and it talks about like 9 different stages of marketing. So it goes over 3 stages, the main stages of marketing, which is attracting a lead, nurturing them, and converting them. So it talks about these 3, and in each one there's like 3 things inside. So it's like 9 key sections, which I think is a very good spot for people to start reading about, or like who want to get into marketing. That's a good place to go into marketing with. I don't really read business books. I think that's the only business book that I've read. Other than that, I'm more into like mindset, psychology, philosophy type books, because yeah, I think like the philosophy, the big ideas are more important than having whatever. But yeah, I think like that's what I'm more interested in, is like more philosophy books, because it makes for a better content ideas, at least for me.